Everyone, this is a regular scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pockets near the entrance or online on the City of Waterville website. All items appearing on the consent agenda are voted on in one motion and vote. Generally, these items are routine in nature and do not require discussion. All items listed under unfinished business or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once all councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must speak at the podium and identify themselves. Each citizen will be allowed one opportunity to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes. Finally, the councilors will be given another opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the end of the meeting under the public comments section of the agenda. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next is disclosure of conflict of interest. Does anyone have a conflict? Okay, seeing none, we are moving on, and the dedication of the 2021 annual report is next on the agenda, but we are going to postpone that until our next meeting when Mr. Roy can be here. So we'll move on to discussion of the closure of the Titanic Bridge during replacement. And we have some guests tonight from the city of Winslow and town of Winslow. Welcome, and please come to the podium, and we're eager to hear what you have to say about your thoughts on this bridge closure. And if you could just announce yourselves, your name first, so we know who you are, that would be great. Thank you.
My name is Dale Macklin. I am the newly elected chairman of the Winslow Town Council, as you are.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Congratulations on being the first woman chairman
Thank you.
of the council. Erica LaCroix is our town manager. I will say some things, and then Erica will chip in on the bridge closure. We as a council unanimously voted last Monday to recommend to DOT that the bridge be closed down completely. Up until now, I think we've heard about one lane being open, probably from Waterville to Winslow. I can speak in general terms. I do not profess to be an engineer. Erica has a lot more experience in that than I do. But in general terms, our reasons for doing it, number one is it takes a year off construction. And I'm assuming with that one less year of construction, there's going to be some substantial savings in the cost. You folks know what you went through with your Main Street construction this summer, and there were headaches for just a shorter period of time than the 2 years is going to be. We in Winslow think that the people, and you learned it in Waterville too, I think, this summer, people will adapt. I really believe that. If one lane is open in either direction, it doesn't make any difference what direction, people are still going to have to make a detour at least once a day, going back and forth. And I think people will learn to adapt, especially over a 2-year period. The biggest issue, safety issue that we could find was our EMS services and emergency services getting across the bridge. If a lane is open, that lane periodically is going to be closed down anyway by DOT when they have to move their cranes around, their Jersey barriers, and all that stuff. So there will be times when the bridge will be completely closed by DOT. So why not close it all completely? And then we don't have the problem of people wondering when the bridge is going to be open. We in Winslow, we're going to take a beating on this with a detour if the bridge is closed or if one lane is open because of the congestion on Bay Street, Benton Avenue, and going out 201 to the Carter Bridge. Going from Winslow to Fairfield won't be bad at all, I don't think, and people will learn. That's only a 5 or 6 minute extra ride. But Bay Street, the Benton Avenue intersection, the intersection by J&S Oil, and on the other side of the Spesifik Bridge, we're going to have problems over there, as anybody is, and you're going to have problems in Waterville too, probably. And closing the bridge, we feel, will be best. And then we're not worrying about when the bridge is going to be closed for construction, and we can let our people and our citizens adapt to the detours. So that's my thoughts in general, where the council is coming from unanimously. Erica has a tremendous amount of experience in traffic patterns in the big cities. She can speak to that, the technicalities of it, more than I can. So, Erica?
Thank you, Jim. Again, Erica LaCroix, the town manager over in Winslow. Just the background that he's talking about, I had 18 years in public works at the city of Lansing, Michigan, and then I worked for Mdot in Virginia. It's the third largest DOT in the country. So yeah, some of this, it's in my bailiwick, let's just put it that way. My concern with the bridge having any openings, even if it's part-time, full-time, my concern is the intersections, and I think Winslow will be the worst side of it, but it will also happen in Waterville, depending on which direction you've got traffic going. If no one has an option to turn on the bridge, whichever way you're coming from, that means that you don't have vehicles that are partially through that turn. When the lights are turning, you have less opportunity for traffic jams. If everyone has to continue straight, then yes, it does take approximately 4 minutes to detour from the intersection of Benton, Clinton, Bay Street, around to Carter Memorial, and then back up to Kennedy Memorial Drive. But you could easily top that 4-minute time with traffic backups. My biggest concern, however, isn't so much for people waiting to get across the bridge. If you're waiting to get across the bridge, you want to go somewhere over there. My biggest concern is that we have EMS and fire. And if that intersection is completely bound up, I'm not going to be able to get those emergency vehicles through there. They may be all set to go straight down to Carter Memorial Drive and go across and hit Inland Hospital, but if they can't get through that intersection, there's not going to, it's not going to help. It's not going to matter that there's a lane open on the bridge. I have had people mention, well, what if there's an incident on the bridge? Once the traffic's on the bridge, it's not going anywhere. So it's not as though if an ambulance needs to come through, the cars are going to be able to move over. There's nowhere to go. You're pretty much stuck in space. I've had an awful lot of opportunity to watch this in action in the course of my career. Generally, less confusion is best for the traveler. If they don't have to guess what day is the bridge open, which direction is it open in. Oh, and by the way, today's a surprise. We had an emergency and we had to shut the bridge down, so you're here, but you got to go around anyway. If people know that this is how I'm going to have to go every day, day in, day out, yes, it is a burden. It is a pain in the tail to have to make that trip and go around. But people accept that a lot better than the surprises, especially when I left myself 15 minutes to get to work today, and all of a sudden today's the day it's closed, and now I'm going to be a half an hour late. People don't like that. And the fact that we can decrease, it's not an insignificant decrease in the amount of time needed for construction. 3 years versus 2 years, that's a pretty significant reduction in time. And that's if there's no overruns where that 3 years turns into 4. They just have a lot better chance of keeping things moving if they can completely shut the bridge down and focus on it all at once. That said, not 100% sure that Mdot will buy into this. We have sent our letter off to them expressing our opinion. We'll see I think that they would like to do it from the terms of cost. And although it's not our cost as towns, I mean, we're not the ones being asked to pony up the funding. It is taxpayer dollars. At the end of the day, we're all paying for it. So I think they would like to do it. I'm not sure how their leadership feels about it. But I think that Waterville and Winslow being united in a desire to see this project go as smoothly and as quickly as possible would probably make a big difference. That's all I have, unless there's anybody who has any questions.
Rick, yes.
Are you guys going to change your light sequencing on the intersections of Bay Street and China Road and Benton Ave and Bay Street to accommodate for the more traffic flow through there that you're going to divert away from the old one? And the reason I ask that is because if we sign on, we're going to kind of have to do the same thing at certain intersections.
Right, and I'm sure you understand Mdot controls all that, so
Okay.
we are having ongoing meetings with Mdot. They've been very good about involving both Waterville and Winslow, bringing us to the table early on, talking out the issues, the possible traffic patterns. So yes,
Okay.
phasing is definitely going to be on there, along with some traffic lane changes. They did mention, even in a scenario where they do keep the bridge partly open, there will be, I don't know how familiar you all are with the coming off of Bay Street and turning onto the Titanic Bridge. There are 2 lanes that actually turn left onto that bridge. And one of those lanes is also a straight through lane. So that, even with the bridge being fully open, causes backups from time to time. They are talking about having 1 dedicated turn lane, 1 dedicated through lane. And that I'm sure we will still have to have in any scenario. Just having any combined lanes doesn't really work with the traffic pattern that we're going to be looking at and the volume that we're going to be looking at certain times of day.
Thank you.
And those traffic patterns continue down to JNS Oil.
Right.
And the other side of the Winslow Bridge.
Right.
And all the way down to the Carter Bridge.
Right. So those lights are going to lengthen out a little bit to keep your flow going.
Absolutely.
Yep. That way you don't have 6 miles of traffic on Bay Street.
It's gonna happen.
I know. Thank you.
Truth is, it won't be fun for anybody.
No.
I mean, I'm sure all of us are going to be feeling our fair share of calls. But again, I think in this case, less is more when it comes to the time frame, so.
Thank you. Councilor Frankie.
Yes, I watched the presentation that the DOT put on their website and was frankly shocked at their idea of trying to keep traffic going on the bridge. Their plan calls for detours around to the Carter Memorial Bridge and to Fairfield Benton. Anyway, whichever way they do it. So it just makes sense to make that a temporary fix for a short period of time, which you're suggesting, and just close the bridge, tear it down, build a new one, and get it done as quickly and safely as possible. I think that makes what you're suggesting makes perfect sense. My question for you is, if Waterville's willing to agree with you, do we need to marshal our state representatives to apply some leverage to DOT?
I am not sure. I guess I don't want to step too hard on DOT's toes unless it becomes necessary, I guess is, we want to have that good working relationship with them. I'm not sure how Steve feels our conversations have gone with them, but I've attended every meeting and they seem to be pretty open to doing what the towns want, so long as they can make it work. But yes, certainly if it came to that point where we felt we needed the extra backing, then it would not hurt at all to write a joint letter to our congressman as well.
I would be awful surprised, I would be awful surprised if DOT didn't go along with a strong joint recommendation from the 2 cities. We're the 2 it's affecting. Especially when it would cut a year off the project. That would be a surprise.
Well, I also think it sounds like a really smart plan, especially thinking about any emergency situations that could arise from traffic jams and such. And I think people will adjust quickly. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Oh, Mr. Daly.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to point out that the closure of that bridge for a 2-year period is not going to be comfortable for everybody, but what will be comfortable is the fact that they will know where to go to detour around it. There won't be any guesswork there, and there won't be any frustration of getting into a gridlock and having the Facebook pages go crazy and the newspaper covering the gridlocks and the frustration and all. I've been in a situation similar to this before with respect to the expansion of a sewer system into a residential neighborhood of some 300-400 houses. And we talked it over in the beginning and made the same decision. They dug up the whole neighborhood for 2 years and put in all the sewer lines and avoided a 3.5-year project. And it was painful. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of it, the whole neighborhood was smiling and happy that it was over in such a short period of time. And the results of the outcome were fantastic, and I think the same thing is going to happen with this bridge. When it's done and traffic is able to go over it, people are going to be happy about it, instead of saying finally. I did check with the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce on this. The full board met today and talked about it and chose not to take a position, which means they just didn't take a position. But there is sentiment within that organization in favor of this. I think I can fairly report that. I also happened to watch the Fairfield Council meeting last week, in which during the councilor comments period, their chair brought up this idea that Winslow has to close the bridge for 2 years, and he discussed it with the rest of the council, and there was a generally favorable response to it. They didn't take any formal position on it, but there was literally no resistance to the idea. I think if the two municipalities lock arms and move forward on this with Maine DOT, that there's a good likelihood that it will come out this way.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Frankie.
Just quickly, do we need a resolution tonight, or can this matter wait and be taken up at the next meeting?
Can't hear him from over here.
He's asking if we need to have a resolution tonight or take it up at the next meeting. I think next meeting would be sufficient.
I think
sure we
that's
can vote on
appropriate.
it.
Let everybody think about it
Yeah.
for a couple of weeks and talk to the people that they need to talk to, and bring it back for vote on February 1st.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much for
Madam
coming and
Chairwoman.
speaking with us tonight.
One thought,
Oh,
Mr. Daly, in one of your emails, you mentioned that to the effect that could there be more cooperation between the two towns, not only on the bridge, but on other issues as well? We have a new town manager. We have 3 new councilors in the last couple of years, and I don't think there's been much of a back-to-back with Waterville and Winslow on any issue lately. And I would like to see that somehow developed, whether it's a joint committee or joint meetings or whatever. And either Erica or Steve or you and I can get together and try to get something going so that we have something where the two towns can cooperate more than we have been in the past.
that sounds great to me.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. And
good
Thanks for
start.
the invitation.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Okay, we are on now to the manager's report. city manager's report.
The first thing that I want to bring up to everybody is that the long-awaited ordinance for the Comprehensive Plan Review Commission has once again been postponed to the next agenda because of concerns that our legal counsel has over the redundancy of the charter provision for this commission and the role of the planning board in the existing zoning ordinance. That's being worked over at this point, and I believe that we'll have a suggested approach to discuss with the mayor and the council chair when we next meet on the next agenda. Looking at our staffing, our workforce is in pretty good shape at this point with respect to COVID exposures. We have, I believe, about a dozen people at this point who are in various stages of exposure protocols, I think is the best way to say it, with more than half of them at work, taking the appropriate measures to keep themselves and others safe. But we've not experienced any diminishing impact on our, any diminishing ability to perform with our workforce because of the COVID influx. I'd like to announce that William Post, who's the current, or was until last Friday, the county administrator in Saginaw County, Maine, has accepted the position of assistant city manager here in Waterville. He'll be coming to us with around 26 years of municipal town manager experience here in the state, all of it being in small communities, 5,000, 6,000 and less, which means that he is going to have the experience of his hands being on virtually every operation within a municipality. That's going to be a tremendous help for me because he knows the state, he knows the details, and he's going to be able to free me up to do what you hired me to do. He will report to work on February 14th, which I learned today is Valentine's Day, and I'm not sure what we're going to do by way of a greeting for him.
Cupcakes would be nice.
I got some ideas.
The question of trash collection came up last week when we had a bit of confusion out in the public regarding a 4-day pickup with the Friday holidays, and it was not our best performance on those 2 weekends. We've talked about how we can deal with that in the future, and the conclusion that we've come to at this point is to annually send out by mail and post on our website a brochure, if you will, that lists critical dates, including all of the trash dates that are going to be unusual for pickup, and various other dates and other important information. The assessing department sends out a greeting packet to all new residents of the city, and we will put it in that as well. So we'll get the widest distribution we possibly can. We'll also put it on our Facebook page. In the meantime, the Public Works Director has been asked to develop a plan for 4-day pickup schedule. That plan is in the formulation process, and I expect that we're going to have it in front of us during the FY23 budget process. And if you'll,
Steve?
if you look in the, oh, excuse me.
So, what about a magnet? Can we do like a calendar magnet that people can put in their fridge? Because I'm going to throw a piece of paper away, but I got tons of stuff on my fridge that I can look at and save.
Yeah.
Can we do a magnet that we can send to people that says
Sure.
each year that says this is what
Yeah.
the schedule is going to be?
Yeah, of course we can do that.
I don't know.
Yep, we will.
I think that probably will be a little more effective.
The heavy envelopes encourage people to open them, too.
I don't
And then finally, actually next to last, in your council shared space, you'll find our FY22 second quarter financials that I ask you to take a look at, pour over them to whatever extent you choose, and formulate any questions or concerns that you have between now and the next meeting. Ask us in between time, and then we can air those at the next meeting and talk about the status of all of our various operations. And then finally, you may recall that a week or so ago, I issued an administrative directive to all city departments to wear masks when they are in contact with other city employees. I did that because of input from the fire chief, who is our primary COVID-19 lead person, and he advised that we should do that to protect the workforce. From September to November, we were experiencing roughly 1 in 9, 8 or 9 positive outcomes on COVID tests. In the month of December, that shot up to the other way around. We were experiencing 1 in 18 for those 3 months from September through November, and then it shot up to 1 in 8 in December, which he believes was a reflection of the surge or the wave of the Omicron variant of the virus sweeping through Maine. The concern about the Omicron variant is not that it is lethal or it's debilitating in its effect, but more so that it's 8 times more transmissible than the previous variants of COVID. And because of that, we were running the risk of it crippling our workforce, because we're still under the protocols for quarantining people and having them stay out of work for 5 to 10 days, isolating them so that they can't work with other people, and it would be debilitating. So I issued that order, and as part of that order, I mentioned public spaces at City Hall and here at the council meetings and the planning board meetings in reference to public behavior. That was an overstep on my part. I don't have the authority to do that. I backed away from that when it was pointed out to me, and I'm bringing that up here to let you know that I believe that's the purview of the council to make decisions of that nature that affect the public. My role is to address the workforce.
Well,
That's my report.
thank you very much. And I'd like to thank you for taking that step of requiring staff to wear masks at work. I think it's clearly coming from your staff as well, that they recognize that this is a serious impediment, not just to health, but also the operations of the city business. So I'm really pleased that you did that, and I would encourage us as a council to either require masks at council meetings or to move to remote meetings, because obviously we have very few folks who feel prepared to come in person, and I think that the point of meeting in person is becoming less important if we don't actually have people attending. So I hope that we can revisit that at our next meeting. Councillor Frankie.
Yes, I just want to echo those thoughts, Councillor Green, and thank the city manager for taking steps to protect the workforce. I would point out that wearing a mask is not for your own safety, but it's a matter of protecting those around you and cutting down on the spread of this very dangerous virus. Even though the more recent variant is not quite as deadly, it is much more infectious. You know, we wore the masks and did the social distancing last year, and we were relatively safe. Let's be smart about this and put the masks back on. Thank you.
Councillor Foss.
So I'd also like to point out, though, that while we've been sitting here under the manager's report, City Clerk coughed 4 times. Now, I lack the hair growth that she has, unfortunately. I'd like to have my bangs back a little bit, but in all 4 instances that she coughed, her hair above the mask moved. So if we're going to talk about masks, we need to talk about proper etiquette of masks and which ones actually work. Second of all, Mr. Daly has now touched his mask 3 times since he's been giving his report, which has broken the seal on those. So that being said, I'm sitting over here. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess I just reiterate the question of whether we need to meet in person or if it's just safer to be online. But we can take that up at our next meeting. Any further questions for the city manager? Okay, thank you very much. And any committee reports? I actually have a couple of notes. One, that the ARPA committee has met and is has a draft of an application that we are still on track to finalize by the end of the month. I know a lot of people are very eager to see that application and send in proposals, so we will definitely be publicizing that as soon as it is ready to go. And I also have an update from the Housing Committee. Let's see. Nancy, one of the things we've been talking a lot about is a consortium of towns and cities to be able to apply for federal funding for housing. And in order to do that, we have to bring a group of cities and towns together that would be big enough to qualify. And so Nancy Williams, one of the Housing Committee members and the executive director of the Waterville Community Land Trust, has set up a Zoom meeting on January 27th at noon to discuss this possibility. And if anyone would like to attend, you can email me and I'll pass that on to Nancy to send you the Zoom link. We're really excited about this opportunity to work with our neighbors to bring more housing for all of us. And I see Councillor Frankie has his hand up.
Yes, just quickly, Councillor, excuse me, Councillor Green, catch the Winslow council chair before he gets out the door and make sure he's invited to the meeting.
Yes.
Secondly, is the ARPA committee still working on a way to check accountability for the various applicants for ARPA money?
Well, we will have a process. We're trying to that will ask questions like, you know, providing a tax ID number and some organizational records. We're trying to find a balance between something that's not too onerous for organizations who are smaller, but that is sufficient to judge the merit of the project. So
Good.
does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And the plan is to have the application form be available online. Yes, Councilor Morris?
Does the committee have, are they working within a set of guidelines to say, like, do they have any, I'm trying to think of the, is there a scope of projects that they want to take some sort of money that says that we want to maybe invest or look at long-term options versus just simply taking in requests for people looking for short-term money to solve a short-term process or issue, you know, and set up more long-term things? Do we have anything, anybody looking at that?
Yeah, I mean, that has come up from the beginning, trying to really leverage this money to create a long-term multiplier effect. We haven't necessarily specified, you know, a category of that type, although we will have probably two different levels, requests under 50,000 and requests over 50,000. And so the requirements for an organization requesting over 50,000 would be greater.
But I mean, more like from a city perspective, like, you know, we can play quarterback and say, well, this is what we feel as though as a city. We don't have to wait for, like, I wouldn't want to wait for an organization to say, well, I want to request 150,000 to support, you know, this project that I have that's going to battle this particular issue for a period of a year or 2 years. And, you know, you have this money, like, fund me. Like, I would rather us be proactive and say, hey, this is where we want to invest this money. Like, can we reach out to people? You know, can we get matches? Is there anything else that we can do to, hey, we put up 100,000, somebody else puts up 100,000. Now we're putting up $200,000 to combat a problem. I mean, again, I'm a broken record. You know, this money should help as many people for as long as we can. You know what I mean? And I think a couple of them we're just like, wow, we're going to help 20. I mean, and I'm not downplaying it, but like, we're going to help 26 people for, you know, a year and a half or 2 years, and, you know, that was a $400,000 chunk of cash, which is fine, but I think that we have an opportunity here to reach a broader group of people, potentially.
Absolutely, and the committee is at the service of the council. So if that's, you know, something that we should be looking at, then we can certainly discuss it. And I'll bring that to the committee at our next meeting.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Daly.
I think when we're talking about the ARPA committee and what it's trying to accomplish, it's important to remember that it was given two charges, or a charge with two stages to it. The first was to recommend to the council how the funds should be apportioned for different categories of projects. And then the second was to make recommendations for awards within those categories. And I hope that they're working on the first stage of that at this point.
The first stage being
Apportioning
deciding,
the funds.
apportioning the needs.
Even if it's on a percentage basis or something of that nature.
Right.
But, you know, where, along with what Councilor Morris was just saying, you know, where do they think the money should be used, and or in what categories of use it should fall? But that comes back to the council for approval, and then the committee goes off and does the work within those parameters.
Right. I mean, one of the things that we are doing is looking at community needs data, studies that have been done on what the needs are in the community that will inform that recommendation on how the funds, on what the funds should be spent on.
Excellent.
Okay, any further questions? If not, we will move on. to the consent agenda. Do we have a
So moved.
motion?
Second.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So do we need a roll call on that,
Yes.
Patty?
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Klepak is absent. Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes,
Counsel McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
I'd like to make a motion, we take the entire title, entire agenda by a title only,
Second.
please. Thank you.
Right.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
yes,
Counsel McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did we vote? We voted on the consent agenda?
We did.
Okay, thank you. And we're moving on to old business. I would like to entertain a motion to,
You gotta read it.
Sorry?
You gotta let Patty read it first.
oh, okay. Well, it actually has to do with taking ordinance 23 out of order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Foss.
Why do we need to take this out of order?
I think because ordinance 23 pertains to ordinance 22, and I would like to consider 23 before we consider 22.
That's a yes, Patty.
Counselor Frankie,
yes,
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. So ordinance 23, amend marijuana ordinance to add CC1 zone.
Okay.
Is
Do we
there a
have
motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, so this ordinance would add the new zone that we've taken a first vote on approving. It would add that zone to the marijuana ordinance. And we had some discussion last week about this. My feeling is that we don't need to move ahead on this right now until we see what happens with this type of zone. We can always add it later, but once we add it, then that's going to follow this zone wherever it may lead in other areas of the city. So I would like to move that we table this ordinance indefinitely.
second,
Can I, okay. So do we have any discussion?
So this CC zone is just on the College Ave
It's,
at this point,
yes, that's right.
and I apologize. So you want to table this because, for this, why? I don't understand. I'm sorry.
Sure, no, I'm happy to explain. I mean, I think that, that right now there are already marijuana businesses in this area, but I think that the whole point of this is encouraging more housing. So I don't really see the need to add the marijuana ordinance to the CC1 zone at this time. But we do have one property in the parcel that we're rezoning that currently has a tenant that is a marijuana business. So that would be, and that individual, I believe, would like to opt out of the zone. So that's why I wanted to take it out of order. So if we don't adopt the marijuana ordinance, then he would request to opt out of the new zone. If we do adopt the marijuana ordinance, then that's going to then that's going to be following that zone if we adopt it in other places in the city. And I'm saying, let's wait and see how the character of that neighborhood develops before we add it.
But we're going to add it to a commercial, it's a commercial,
Yeah,
so there's
well-
marijuana is already allowed in that zone as
Right.
it is. So you're just saying, okay, well, I mean, if there's marijuana there already, then, and we add the residential or the housing piece to it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get to a point where we're, if we don't add it to the marijuana, then we are silently or, going through and saying, okay, well, we've approved marijuana in commercial zones, but now we're going through and we're spotting where we want to put residential on top of businesses, and then getting to a point where we're now effectively limiting the amount
Yeah,
of
sure.
marijuana that,
Yeah.
stores that we can do. And I don't want to go back in one just to move forward in another. So, I mean, if we want to just say, like, hey, if you have a business and you want to have people live above it because, you have the space and that makes sense, then it shouldn't matter what type of business that's there. Like, you're going to choose to live there or not. And, we get into a spot where this one's opting out, this one's opting in. Now we're back to spot zoning.
Yeah.
And, we're allowing that to happen at the owner's level. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's a C1 zone, I can choose not to put a tenant for residential above my property, but if you've limited me to not allowing marijuana, then now
Yeah.
my building could be, useless, or,
Well-
not as maybe as lucrative, maybe, to somebody that wants to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a conversation to have, and I think what we're also doing here is we're creating a completely different kind of zone, which is, not completely different, but it's a new type of zone, which is a mixed-use zone. And I guess, once we add the marijuana as a use in that zone, then it will be much harder to change it later than it would be to add it if we feel like that.
But
that's a
marijuana is already
demand.
there,
Yep.
like in the zone.
Yep.
Like, we're not adding, it's not a zone, like, it's not a new zone that we're adding marijuana is already there. We're adding residential to a marijuana zone, like, I mean, to a commercial zone. Like, so it's, I don't see it as way like of,
Yep.
well, like, we're creating this new residential zone. We're amending a commercial zone, which is commercial, and marijuana is commercial. So we're essentially, discriminating against a business to put residential. So we either add it or I think we just add it. I mean,
Okay.
it is what it is.
I mean, I think that's certainly a valid way to go. I just want to point out, there are some commercial uses that aren't allowed in this zone, so.
I mean, but we're not changing the commercial zone. Like, I mean, the commercial zone at the base level is what it is. We're adding residential on top of that.
True.
So we're not discriminating. Like, at the end of the day, the only thing we're doing to the commercial is adding a residential component to it. We're not changing the structure of a commercial zone in its entirety.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
Curiosity question, are there already limits to this zone for commercial use? And if so, does it matter that we're limiting another? Are there already limits to this zone for what you can have for commercial space there?
So the answer to that question is there are limits to that zone as to what can be done there, but marijuana is
I mean, I know the
use.
marijuana is there, and I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm looking back, new to the council, watching what happened the last time you had to amend your marijuana because you gave the guy the permit, the license and everything, and then you had to amend for the homeless shelter. So I'm with her to the point that maybe we need to stop back for a second and see how it plays a little bit before we just rush into doing something, and then you're going to be amending an amendment, or amending and amending an amendment. Okay? If there's already limits there, we're not doing anybody any harm. As I understand it, and I may be wrong, these individuals can either opt out of the zone, or they're going to be grandfathered, or something like that's going to happen. All I'm looking at is, I sometimes think we rush into things and it comes back to haunt. And I'm trying not to rush in.
Well, I mean, the rush would be adding a C1, like creating a new zone. Like, no one was concerned about adding a brand-new zone.
Oh, no, I was.
The rush
Okay,
to do that.
can I-
I'm not disagreeing with that. I wasn't in a rush to do that either.
But I think by adding the zone, you now have to account for that. The trickle down is, okay, by adding this zone, okay, now what are the unintended consequences of that? And one of them is being, well, we have this marijuana, which now is no longer valid in this particular zone that we're creating, yet that's the whole
Okay.
basis of the thing.
I'd like to let Counselor Frankie speak.
Yes. Well, it seems to me that you go back to basic principles. The reason for the new zone is to encourage housing there. That's one of the things that the city desperately needs. So I was in favor of the new zone because it does just that, encourages housing. The consequences as far as marijuana goes is something that is not as an urgent a need. The clerk will tell you that we've got more than a dozen marijuana stores in town now. And here I point out that Waterville did not go the way that many other towns in Maine went with legalized marijuana. We didn't put limits on the number of stores. We put limits on where the stores could be. We still have plenty. So I don't see the need to burden the expanded housing opportunities by adding marijuana to this as a permitted use in this zone. We don't allow marijuana in the other residential zones for that matter. So it's a mixed use thing. I agree with Tom. Let's take the wait and see approach on this and see how things shake out.
Any other, Counselor Foss?
Steve, can you hear me all right?
I can.
Okay, if you can't, let me know and I'll make sure that you can.
Okay.
Okay, so if we don't adopt ordinance 23 but do adopt ordinance 22, does that affect the individual that's in that zone currently?
Yes.
How so?
His use would become non-conforming
Even,
because it's not allowed under the marijuana ordinance.
okay, so,
It's legal non-conforming, as in
Yes.
grandfathered.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It would be a legal use, it would remain in place so long as the use didn't change.
but as soon
And-
as he left,
Pardon me?
then it would revert back to whatever we decide tonight. Or
No,
later.
I don't believe so. The use is allowed under the existing, the use would be grandfathered as a legal use because it was established
Okay.
prior to this zoning change.
Mm-hmm.
But we have slightly differing opinions on that. I believe the city planner believes it would remain in place for only a year after he gives up the property. And that may be the prevailing point of view in Maine. Otherwise, it would remain a valid use until it was changed. So if it became a dress shop, then the marijuana use is gone.
Right. So I want to get this clear because I've got two different opinions in my head now. If we do not amend to the marijuana ordinance, CC1 zone, and we do adopt the CC1 zone, the gentleman that's running that shop or whoever is running that shop will be protected. Is that a yes or a no question?
Say it again.
If we don't take this one, but we take the other one, is the person that's in business right now protected?
As long as the use doesn't change.
Correct. Good enough.
What if he sells the building?
That's the
Yeah.
part that's a little bit in question right now.
I think the other option is for that property owner to opt out of the CC1 zone, which would leave us with one spot, although there are a couple of other parcels that have to be omitted from the zone because they're contract zoned. So he would have the option of opting out of the CC1 zone, which would allow for the continued use of marijuana to continue even if that tenant left the premises. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, in the case that we're talking about, the tenant, right, or in the context, the owner lives upstairs. If he was to sell the building to the business, and say the business downstairs, which was bought the building, could they continue to operate as like if it changed hands? Like, so, like, the owner of the building is, rents the downstairs to the business. So the business doesn't own it.
Right.
So if he sells the building and, is no longer able to live there, and sells the building, and the people downstairs, his current tenants, want to buy it, and they are a marijuana, can they continue to operate? Do we limit, or does now a business or somebody that wants to purchase a property in a current commercial zone limited to, they can't no longer buy it, and they have to move their business?
Well, I don't know regarding the transfer of property, the answer to that question. But if this property owner were to opt out of the CC1 zone and keep his property in commercial C, then he could do whatever he wants with that property.
Okay.
So the question here is either we adopt the marijuana ordinance.
Can I
And
interject something on what?
I'll just clarify what we're talking about here.
All right.
So either we adopt the marijuana ordinance, and then we can adopt, so that's ordinance 23, and we adopt 22 as is. If we decide we don't want to approve marijuana in CC1 right now, then we probably need to amend the ordinance 22 to allow him to opt out, if that's his wish.
Patty, can you give us the motion on the floor, please?
The motion is to table.
The motion on the floor is to table indefinitely.
Thank you.
So, Councilor McCormick.
To answer your question, Mr. Morris, the people that own the business have the license. The man that owns the building doesn't. If he sells it to them, all he's done is transferred ownership of the property to them. The business still exists. You already have that happening all the rest of the way down College Avenue. People have the licenses, but they're renting the buildings. If they're renting right now and they have the business, all they've done is transferred ownership to themselves. They still have an existing business. So that shouldn't affect their operations.
Well,
Okay.
shouldn't is a bit, is a gray area. And
Shouldn't is a,
and,
shouldn't,
it's
wouldn't,
why we
and
had
couldn't.
all, this.
That's right.
This craziness
That's-
with the other one that took 5 months to figure it out because the unintended consequence of doing something and, taking an action versus, just dotting our I's, crossing our T's didn't happen. So that's all I'm doing at this point.
Well, that's why I'm agreeing with you to dot our i's, cross our
Yeah.
t's, and let's step back a minute and let let's see how this plays a little bit.
All right, so unless there are any further, any other questions, we should probably move to a vote on whether to table
Table indefinitely.
indefinitely.
Counsel Morris?
No.
Counsel DeBrito?
No.
Counsel Green?
Yes,
Counsel Foss?
No.
Counsel Frankie?
Yes,
Counsel McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is
Oh,
three.
I think I'm ready for the law.
The vote is 3 in favor and 3 opposed, so the motion fails.
okay.
I didn't understand the question.
Do you want to reconsider the vote?
Yes.
yes, let's reconsider the
Yeah,
vote.
there was too many motions going on at the same time, so I wasn't understanding
only
what
one motion,
we
the
were
first one.
voting on.
So, okay, so I guess
Keep
we can reconsider.
voting until we get what people want, I
Well,
guess.
I mean,
At the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that I even asked
mean,
the city clerk to restate the motion on the floor so that we all had a clear idea of what we were voting on. So it went 3-3 after she clearly stated that it was a table indefinitely.
At the end of the day,
It's
it's-
true.
at the end of the
After-
day, it doesn't matter. Like, the vote will be different to amend it anyway, so
okay,
whether we revote or we just leave it as is, and then when we vote on ordinance 23 to amend it, it'll just, she'll
someone
vote
could put a new motion
correctly,
on the
and
floor.
it'll just be 4-3 anyway. Or 4-2.
so.
So that motion
given that-
failed, so
right.
if someone wants to put a new motion on the floor,
Sure.
even if it's the same motion, then we can do that.
Right, okay,
All right, I'll move to table it again,
I'll second.
table it indefinitely.
I'll second that.
Shall we move to a roll call again?
yes,
Thank you. Counsel Morris?
No.
Counsel DeBrito?
Yes.
Counsel Green?
yes,
Counsel Foss?
No.
Counsel Frankie?
Yes,
Counsel McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 4 in favor and 2 opposed. Okay.
okay. So, moving on to Order 21.
Accept FAA grant for airport operations.
move to
Is there a
adopt.
motion?
Second.
Second, okay.
Steve, could you just give us some background on this one?
Well, you voted in favor of doing this once already. This is the second vote. This would finalize it. The $32,000 is an FAA grant having to do with COVID proceeds, and it's specifically to reimburse the city for airport operations that had a COVID impact on them.
Okay, any discussion? Move to a vote?
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito?
Yes.
Counsel Green?
Yes,
Counsel Foss?
Yes.
Counsel Frankie?
Yes,
Counsel McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
okay, moving on to Ordinance 22.
Amend the zoning ordinance creating CC1 zone and rezoning parcels to CC1 zone.
move to
Move to
adopt.
adopt. Second.
Any discussion?
So this won't carry the marijuana, correct?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Thank you.
So the recommendation was that we allow let's see, the property owner to opt out of this zone if desired.
Now,
Yeah,
we're going to make, so we've announced this ordinance is going to go and affect all of these properties.
right.
The opt-out will be, I mean, are we going to send notice? How are the people know? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so somebody that maybe doesn't, like, I know this particular owner is online and paying attention, but like, if there's other owners that own properties that don't know that they were just rezoned to this zone, do we have a mechanism in place to notify every single parcel here in this particular zone that they are being rezoned and what the opt-out process is? And if not, can we make sure that that happens so that somebody doesn't wake up or
Right.
somebody that's out of state just says like, all right, well, it's going to, wait a minute, what do you mean my property was rezoned and now I can't do all the uses
Right.
that it was intended?
Well, I mean, the process of rezoning is, every property owner gets notified.
Okay.
So my understanding was that
We just need to be
process-
good at that because we're not so good at it in the past.
Well, the thing that we weren't good at
I'm,
was,
I'm just saying, I'm just making the broad statement that we've got to be better at it this particular time.
right, it was, if you recall, it was the safe zone that we weren't notifying people about the impact on their property, and we changed that, so that now we're required to do it in very much the same way. I touched my mask again.
32 times.
Very much the same way that the zoning ordinance requires property owners and abutters to be notified if anything is going to be done with respect to their property or abutting properties. So everyone's been notified in this case. They were not informed, however, as I understand it, that they had the option of requesting that they not be included in the new zone. So that would require a second notice.
Perfect.
So what is the procedure here, as far as,
Can you speak into the microphone?
yeah, sorry. What is our procedure here? This person hasn't formally requested to be, to opt out of the zone.
You would have to amend this ordinance by removing, as I recall, the reference to, in the last list of properties, parcels 159 to 161. No, wrong ones?
No, I mean, I think it was 130.
143 to 145.
Right.
Remove the dash and put a comma.
Right, exactly. And
Okay.
add the address,
Thank you.
which,
162.
so I believe the property owner is here online. I don't know if he wants to
Yeah.
speak up, or we just go ahead and do that. It seems like
Yeah,
maybe we,
He just texted me, he would like to opt out,
okay,
and he can't speak.
Okay.
So he wants his building to stay a CC building.
all right. In
But
that-
in this, I want to make sure that we give this process, right? So so you just said that we just adopted this, we're going to get ready to make a vote on this and adopt this without anybody else having the opportunity to opt out. And I want to make sure that they still have, regardless of what we just vote on right now, that those people have that same process in the future. And they're like, well, now we have to, I don't want 4 businesses to come back here in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is, when they get wind of it, and have to vote on re-pulling these people out. I would rather just table this, notify over a period of time, and then simply just say, great, and now everybody that's had the opportunity to opt out has opted out. If not, they can do it later. Like, you know what I mean? I want to be
Okay.
efficient.
Okay, absolutely. Counselor Foss and then Counselor Frankie.
Patty, is it written, like Council Morris just stated, anywhere in the zone ordinance?
Is what written?
The opting out part, in writing? There's no opting out. So I'm going to make a motion to table indefinitely, because Council Morris is right. We don't need 4, 6, 20 businesses coming through the door saying we weren't notified. And then once proper notification has gone out, I don't know if it has or not, we're brushing right up against the safe zone situation. And Council McCormick is right. Let's do it right the first time. And that's why I voted against the marijuana tabling, because if we've already got a marijuana business in the zone, let's make it clean,
Okay.
okay?
Counselor
But
Frankie.
hold on, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking, I'm making a motion to table indefinitely to get this thing cleaned up.
And I'll
get-
second it.
Okay, I just want to point out, this is the second vote on this ordinance, so that means that it's off the table and we've already voted once.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you really want to table it indefinitely, or do you want to, are you voting to postpone it?
Proper time to have the things come back.
Steve, how long?
Okay.
Hold on, let me clean this up.
Can I recognize the speakers so
Yeah,
that we're
absolutely.
orderly?
But, there's a point of order.
Okay.
There is a table indefinitely on the floor right now.
Okay.
And you
I'm
just
just-
asked me to amend, so do you want me to amend just for cleanliness of the council meeting?
I just wanted to clarify that that's what your intent was.
My intent was indefinitely, but if you'd like me to move a different table, then I can do that right now. And-
Okay.
And then we'll, certainly, absolutely, everybody
Yeah.
else can have a speak.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're clean throughout this process.
Okay, we just had some side chatter.
Yeah,
so,
no, I understand
okay.
that. Steve, how long do you need to properly notify?
Oh, I think we have to give them 10 days' notice, something like that.
14, I'm not sure.
10 or 14 days' notice. I would
Okay.
postpone it to the second meeting in February in order to give adequate time.
So moved.
Okay,
And it will give all of us time to really sort this out in the meantime.
They're talking 14 days though.
okay.
Was there a second to
Counsel-
that motion? I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Counselor Frankie.
I just wondered if this wasn't a planning board issue, that maybe the chairman of the planning board could come to the next meeting and explain what was done in terms of notice and whether this actually is an issue or not.
So I just want to say that this has been to the planning board, and the city planner did give notice, and that is why we have a gentleman who's requested to opt out. So I do think that the proper notice has been given, but I understand that there's some reluctance to repeat the events of last summer with the situation that we had. So we have a motion on the floor to table
To the second meeting.
till
To
the
the second
next.
meeting
Okay.
in February. Yep.
To the next meeting. Any discussion on that? Let's move to a vote.
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito?
So are we voting to table this?
Until the second meeting in February.
Oh, okay, yes.
Counsel Green?
No.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Well, I love to table, so I'm going to vote yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 1 opposed.
Okay.
Moving rapidly
Moving on to Resolution 28.
Authorize execution of a class action lawsuit settlement agreement.
Mr. Daly.
The
We need a motion.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you.
The amendment that was discussed with legal counsel is in the shared space, and if you would like, I can read it to you.
Please.
It says, I, meaning one of you, move to delete the text of Resolution 28-2022 in its entirety and substitute in its place the following. Quote, that the city manager is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents to effectuate settlement of opioid lawsuits consistent with an apportionment agreement with the state of Maine. That reflects the broad-based approach that council advised in our previous discussion.
I move to amend ordinance, Resolution 28-2022 to the verbiage that City Manager Daley just spoke.
Second.
Second.
Okay, and just for folks that are listening, this is the result of discussion we had in executive session before this meeting. And this is the language recommended by our attorney, according to our inclination to accept.
Madam Chair, it may be appropriate to give a little bit of background on this for the benefit of the public.
Sure.
And to say that Waterville is among 11 municipalities and counties in Maine that are party to a series of class action lawsuits addressing the opioid outbreak, I think it is, that
Epidemic.
we experienced back in the 2000 to 2020 period. There are several major pharmaceutical firms and nationwide pharmacies that are defendants in the various lawsuits that are involved in this class action suit. And the apportionment agreement that's referred to here is one that's been negotiated by the law firm that represents Waterville. They've negotiated it with the state of Maine so that there's a fair distribution of whatever proceeds result from the settlement or decisions in the lawsuits to come.
Councilor Frankie.
Just to add a couple of notes, Steve, for the public, the lawsuits are against multiple defendants, and they're nationwide, and so all 50 states are involved. Maine and Waterville are down at we're the small fry involved in this litigation. But because the litigation settlements are talking about billions of dollars, it could be a substantial amount of money that Waterville could be entitled to as part of the settlements. That's why there's no point for Waterville to try to do one of these lawsuits on its own behalf. So being part of the group is definitely the way to go.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. It is a complex matter, but clearly it seems that our best option is to move forward at this time. However, we are going to vote on that.
We have the amendment on the floor currently.
Right. So unless,
I should do a roll call on
Yes.
the amendment? Thank
Yep.
you. Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
yes.
Counsel Foss.
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counsel McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Move as amended.
Second.
All set?
Okay, any discussion on the amended ordinance, resolution? Okay, seeing none, let's take a roll call.
Counsel Morris,
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito,
Yes.
Counsel Green,
Yes.
Counsel Foss,
Yes.
Counsel Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, moving on to Order 30.
Amend Order 241-2021, acceptance of a gift from the Friends of Quarry Road.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, move to a vote.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to new business. We are at Resolution 32, 2022.
Refer to the Planning Board, College Avenue rezone.
Move to adopt.
Second. So, do you want to speak to this, Steve, or?
Just
shall I?
briefly to point out for the public
Okay.
that this is a rezoning of, you might say, orphan portions of parcels that were left in the former Commercial C zoning district after the rezoning that has been tabled. So there's no action on that rezoning at this point, and this would just refer to the
Right.
planning board. Really, the question to them, well, what do we do with these fragments of parcels?
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we table to the February 15th meeting. Is that what I'm hearing? Am I misunderstanding that?
No, I'm
Okay.
not saying that. I think you should pass this because it'll put the question over to the planning board, and
all
by
right.
the time we get to February 15th, you might have a whole package.
Okay,
And you
then
can
I-
just do it all at once.
I'm going to retract that motion.
Okay, Counselor Frankie.
Well, that was just what I was going to ask, but Councilor Foss beat me to the punch.
Okay. So, just to clarify, for anyone who might be confused about this, the CC1 rezoning was done measuring 200 feet from the center line of College Avenue West. And that created a kind of jagged line, as it were, with properties behind those facing directly onto College. So we have a number of properties which are, once the CC1 zone is passed, would have properties in 2 different zones. So this is just an attempt to clean that up and to put those properties entirely within a single zone, and all of them are currently in residential use, so they would all go into residential zone. So that's the referral that we're making. And do we have any discussion about that? No? Okay. So we're ready for a vote. And this, just to remind us what we're voting on, Patty, if you would?
This is to refer to the Planning Board, the rezoning.
Okay.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Resolution 33, 2022.
Establish a Waterville Historic Preservation Committee.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
A whole lot of what I read about this is in my ward, and I would like to know more about it. A whole lot, almost the whole thing comes into Ward 7, other than certain specific, the bridges and stuff that were named off. A large portion of Ward 7 is considered in this preservation. And I would like to hear more from the planning board on what their intent was.
Okay, are you We don't have anyone from the planning board, I believe, here tonight. But,
Because the next two the next two after it are dealing with the zoning and the building codes and electric codes to go with it. And that's where I would like to know more.
okay. Counselor Frankie?
Could we get an explanation of who might be on this committee?
Well, in the resolution, it says one counselor, one planning board member, one board of directors of the Waterville Historical Society, and one representative of the South End Neighborhood Association, as described in 2 parts. So there's 2 different, looks like there's a breakdown in what the South End Neighborhood Association is, so.
It's,
And
excuse
then
me,
some
it's-
community members.
I believe the history on this is that the planning board wanted to set up an adaptive reuse ordinance which would protect certain historical buildings in the city from being renovated or rehabbed in a manner that didn't preserve their historical significance. And so this is a way to do that, to make sure that they maintain their character.
Until we can get somebody here to explain a little bit more to us, can we table these 3 motions? The Preservation Committee, the zoning, and so 33, 34, and 35.
Second?
Okay?
Can
we-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I would, well, to Tom, I would ask that we modify his amendment. I'm okay, like amending the ordinances, but I don't know that there's any harm in creating a committee for historic preservation. I think that you'll get your answers, and if you want on this committee, then I don't know if anybody's gonna fight you for it, so this would be a great opportunity
It
for
wasn't
you.
looking that,
But-
it wasn't that I was looking to get on the committee or anything. I just wanted to know a little bit more. This is the first I was hearing of it. So I was,
Yeah.
Well, the planning board has been discussing it for quite a while, but whereas you've just come on the committee, we certainly can table it till next time and have someone explain it. Can we table 3 motions at once, Patty? Yeah, 3 items, okay. Counselor Frankie?
Well, I just want to point out that it does require a little more thought. That's why I asked you to read it, Mike, so that we'd have a little bit broader understanding for the general public of what we're talking about here. And certainly by the next meeting or the next 2 meetings, why there is an opportunity for people to kick around the ideas and come to council meeting and complain about that we're not doing the right thing or we're doing the right thing and just doing it wrong. Whatever. That a little more discussion is probably in order. And you know me, if we can table it, we should.
I can always count on you, Claude.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's move to a vote.
Counsel Morris?
To be clear, this is a vote to table the 33, 34, and 35.
Correct.
That's what everybody's voting for now, yes, thank you. Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes, okay.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes?
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Resolution 36, 2022.
Appoint members to the Municipal Finance Committee.
Move to adopt?
Second.
Any discussion?
Who exactly are we appointing?
We are appointing Counselor Frankie and Counselor Morris. That is the recommendation of the mayor, I believe. Yeah.
Councilor Morris, don't let Councilor Frankie table everything.
We can't, we're on a timeline, we can't table everything, the budget will go crazy.
All right.
He's the yin to my yang on this one.
Are we ready for a vote on this? Let's do it.
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito?
Yes.
Counsel Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Thank you, Mayor Coelho. Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Resolution 37, 2022.
Appoint citizens to various boards and committees.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I would invite an amendment on this. One of the recommendations is to the Comprehensive Plan Committee, which hasn't been formed yet formally. So I would recommend that we omit that appointment until that committee is formed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and I just want to make sure that so we are appointing, do you have that, Patty? Would you
Yes.
read that?
Donna DeMarche is being appointed to the Housing Committee and the Board of Assessment Review as an alternate, and Christopher Levesque is being appointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals as an associate member.
Okay,
But we've got a motion on the floor to omit Christopher for the time being.
Christopher from the
Well-
From the
Second Committee of
Comprehensive
Comprehensive
Review.
Plan
He's-
Review
he's up for
Committee.
two.
right,
10-4.
he's up, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion?
Set.
All right,
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito?
Yes.
Counsel Green?
yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Move as amended.
Second.
Any discussion on the appointment of these two committee members? Okay, I think we're good to go.
Counsel Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Resolution 38, 2022.
Appoint Brian Batchelder as local sealer of weights and measures.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Patty, could you just describe this position, and it's apparently one we haven't had before?
Yes,
city?
I'd be happy to explain, but I'm also happy to defer to Mr. Batchelder, who is
okay,
here in the
wonderful.
audience. Sir, if you could go to the podium and give an explanation, thank you.
Okay, what essentially, is it on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What this position entitles is checking the gas stations and also any store with retail scales, which measures a retail for sale product. And what my job would be is to check the calibration of those gas pumps to ensure that when you buy 5 gallons of gas, you obtain 5 gallons of gas. Or when you go to a retail scale, if you buy a pound of ham, you get a pound of ham. And this protects the stores. It also protects the gas stations. The gas stations pay for this service every year when they relicense. The state used to have 25 people doing it. They now have 3. So the legislature, I gave you paperwork, the legislature adopted a resolution so that somebody like me can go ahead and do it to assist the state. As it turns out, I'm the only one in the state doing it. So it's something that needs to be done. It's at no cost to the town. And I bill the stores direct, and I bill the state for the gas stations.
Great.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
And
That job.
and what's your,
Counselor Frankie.
what's your experience in terms of
12 pages in.
weighing and measuring?
I've been doing this job for 3 years, but I'm a retired state trooper. In the last 10 years, I was in weights and measures.
Well, your credentials
Right.
seem extensive.
Right.
Thank you very much.
12 pages of them. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think Chad wants the job, do you? Okay, he's good.
Chad doesn't want the job.
Fair enough, you're in.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on this one? Yes, let's go ahead.
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Resolution 39, 2022.
Authorize waiver of foreclosure of municipal tax liens.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Steve, could you give us some background on this one?
This is an annual decision that the council makes to waive the duty it has under state law to foreclose on properties whose taxes haven't been paid for 3 consecutive years. The council traditionally has voted to waive foreclosure on mobile homes to make the statement that the city does not want to be owners of mobile homes nor landlords for people who live in mobile homes. It's a good decision, and the consistency of it has served the city well. Our tax collector, Linda Cody, is here tonight if you have any detailed questions.
Counselor Frankie.
I just, I know we do this every year, and the amount of taxes is really small potatoes in terms of the city's overall budget. I just wondered if we are ever able to collect on these taxes. They remain a liability to the owner, is that correct?
The taxes stay on that mobile home, so if they want to move it, they can move the mobile home, but they have to pay all the taxes up. The mobile home owners also receive all of the letters that a normal house would. So I just had somebody call me yesterday and today and ask if they could pay $75 a month until they get it paid up. Yes. So I do collect it. It is not abated or written off. It still stays on the books. So we do collect most of them.
Oh, good, thank you.
So does that mean that if the owner of the mobile home can't pay their taxes, then they also can't move that home?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
But now that the homestead exemption, though, has gotten up to $24,500, we have a lot of mobile homes that owe this particular year, but they don't owe the next 2 up to the current year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only 1 year they're working off.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
Have you got any habitual offenders on here?
Yes.
Okay. I ain't gonna ask who, I just was asking if you did.
All right. Shall we move to a vote?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes,
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Resolution 40, 2022.
Amend the lease agreement between the City of Waterville and the Waterville Opera House Improvement Association.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Counselor Frankie.
This is a matter that I believe should have come before the Finance Committee, so I'd like to move to table this until such time as the Finance Committee has been able to review this request and make a report to the council.
I like a good tabling too, Counselor Frankie, so I'll second that.
Okay. Any,
I guess, why would this come to the Finance Committee? What, I don't understand. We don't see leases typically,
Did you see the line that they're striking out?
well,
And,
it's,
but they've not approved.
there's money involved. There's money involved that the city's owed, Mike, or that the city is going to not collect. So I think it's a finance issue.
Okay. Whatever.
I would agree. Any further discussion? So we're just tabling this until the Finance Committee can give us an
Make a
opinion.
report.
A report, okay. Move to a vote?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Next, we have Order 41, 2022.
Approve membership in the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments, also known as KVCOG.
Move to adopt?
Second.
Second. Counselor Foss and then Counselor Frankie.
I'm going to make an amendment to change the wording, second paragraph, exceed $13,643 should reflect the number $6,821 in written form. So that's the
Yeah.
amendment to that.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Move to a vote?
Counselor Morris?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Foss?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Move as amended?
Second.
Counselor Frankie.
Again, this is a matter of the city spending money, a substantial amount of money. I believe this is another matter that should go before the Finance Committee. Therefore, I'm going to suggest and make a motion that we table this until the Finance Committee can make a report on this item.
Okay. Do we have a second on?
We need a
second.
second. There's a motion to
Yeah,
table, but
we
there's
need
been
a
no second.
Right. Is there a second on that? Well, I think if we're tabling the Resolution 40, then this also seems to be an expenditure of funds that we hadn't accounted for. So I'll second it. Counselor Foss.
So the only reason I didn't go with Counselor Frankie on this one is because KVCOG, if I'm correct my memory, Steve, was here and gave us their dissertation that we have in here. Did you, the way I remember it, you were going to get us the savings that we would receive or be a part of if we became members. Am I remembering that right?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
And I wrote you about that in the brief that I gave you.
So we already had this discussion per se, and, you know, that we'd like to look at it, but now the
Yes.
money's come here, so that's why I didn't table it. Because here it is, $6,821.
13,000.
No, 6,000.
I thought we amended
It's-
it to 13,000.
No.
It's 13,000.
Written format is the correct, is $6,821
For the remainder of the year.
for the remainder of the
Okay.
year. So that's, I mean, it's, Steve, how much are we saving if we go into this? How much are we saving if we go into this agreement with KVCOG?
nothing near the cost of membership, but in my opinion, Waterville, if it's going to represent itself as a leader in the region, needs to be at the table with KVCOG, because KVCOG is the planning agency for the region, and that's where you have a voice.
Going to help you do your job better once the assistant gets in place?
Absolutely, yes.
That's all I need. Thank you.
I would agree with Mr. Daly. I'm in favor of Waterville joining KVCOG, but I also, I think that it's a good practice for any expenditures outside of our budget appropriations to go to the Finance Committee, so that we're not just kind of adding to the budget as we go along during the year. But Mr. Amundsen is here. I don't know if you want to say a few words. You've sat through a very long meeting.
He's the last one standing.
Yeah.
Well, sitting.
Thank you for the opportunity. Again, there are benefits. We did run the numbers with Mr. Daly. Waterville did get a better price on salt, but on the other products like culverts and fabric mats, you would actually have some savings. So there are some savings associated with some of the products. One thing to keep in mind, which your Finance Committee, could consider, is that one of the sources of revenue you can use to pay your KVCOG membership is TIF funds. So I would have your legal counsel take a look at that. So that's one thing to take into consideration. This figure here represents basically a 6-month membership. So we felt that was fair in terms of your enthusiasm for rejoining. So you're getting a really good deal of getting a year and a half with a 25% discount. So that's also something to kind of take into account. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about KVCOG or other benefits of membership.
Well, now I have a question. So you just said we're paying for 6 months, but when will this become, will we talk about this for the next budget?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, all right, but then we can, we can have a broader, I guess, conversation as to the long-term benefits of this, I guess, at that point,
Yeah, the
You
Finance
can
Committee
you can
gonna
talk
get sooner or
about
later,
long-term membership in the budget discussion.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, this membership would begin immediately and go until June?
Till the end of June.
The end of June.
And then our fiscal
Okay.
year starts July 1st.
Right, okay.
And we basically provide notices to all municipalities in December for planning purposes as you're all kind of getting geared up. So we give you an estimate of what the next year's membership would be. So that's the letter that Mr. Daly was responding to initially, but the enthusiasm to rejoin halfway through. So that was our counter proposal.
I see. Okay,
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
You have the motion on the floor again, Chair?
Yeah. Patty, could you read the motion?
The
that's
motion on the floor is to table.
Okay, until the Finance Committee.
That
Can
wasn't
meet
part
to
of the
discuss.
motion, but if you
Oh,
want to
okay.
add that, or,
This is $6,000,
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, in the
the
interest
longer that we wait,
of,
we don't recognize
in
the
the interest
benefits
Hold
of
on.
$6,000.
One at a time, one at a time.
Well, I was speaking first.
I know.
Madam
Well,
Chair?
can we raise hands so that I can keep track, please?
So we can vote.
Counselor Frankie.
Yeah, in the interest of speeding things up a little bit here at the end of the meeting, I'll withdraw my motion to table. It appears that the sentiment is pretty solid in favor of joining KVCAP.
COG.
Yeah, okay. So,
Steve, I think had something. I think Steve had something.
okay.
and so the motion has been withdrawn, your second is withdrawn as well. So the motion on the floor is to adopt.
All right. Do we have a second on that?
You don't need a second.
There already is one.
Oh, okay. All right. Do we have,
Roll call.
can we vote? Roll call.
Counsel Morris.
Yes.
Counsel DeBrito.
Yeah.
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes?
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
And finally, Resolution 42, 2022.
Approve use of drug forfeiture funds.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Steve, could you
Yes.
bring us up to speed on this one?
Yes, this was an initial request by the chief of police to add $8,000, or rather to allow use of $8,000 over the annual standing allowance of $10,000 in drug forfeiture funds without coming back to the council for approval. In the meantime, since this came forward, we have determined that the purpose that this money would be used for has already been accomplished, meaning that the gate has been installed and the fencing has been purchased, that will be attached or included in the police shooting range project. Then that project was part of the 2019 bond, and there is ample funding left in that bond to cover this $8,000 expense. So our finance director has recommended that we do that instead of the council authorizing additional use of the forfeiture fund. That would be my recommendation,
So,
that this be tabled indefinitely,
okay.
and we'll take care of it administratively as part of that bond.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Counselor Frankie.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask. Steve answered it.
Mm-hmm, okay. Roll call?
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Foss,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Always yes on the table motion.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay. This is the opportunity for counselors to offer observations, make announcements, and talk about any issues they wish to see addressed by the council. Counselor Foss.
I don't know why you sound like what's going to come out of it next, but here we are. Steve, three-phase on Webb Road that we talked about a little over a week ago.
That's in the hands of the city engineer who's pursuing it. He's reached out to CMP
Okay.
and said that he will report back as soon as he has any information.
Solar committee warming up to that?
Pardon me?
Is the solar committee warming up to that? Are we prepping them? If that comes back, good, because it's a straight shot.
Well, let's find out if the capability is there, and
Okay.
then we can run it in front of the solar committee to see what they think.
Okay, and the reason I'm bringing this up is the solar farm that was supposed to land on the landfill, the cost of build to connect to the transmission line was, what, a mil point two, something like that?
Something
Just to
like that.
build the connection line. And now that we've got the 101 Webb Road farm coming in, CMP is dragging in a pure three-phase to connect that to the grid, which is stopping right next to the road that goes into the landfill. So it's a perfect opportunity that if it's feasible and it's right, we could get a solar farm on a landfill that's not going to do us any good for eons. So,
Okay,
cool. That's all I had.
great. Any other counselor comments? All right, any comments from the public?
Nothing? You got nothing?
Seeing none?
I am going to make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
I was going to commend her for making it through her first meeting.
Thank you. And I appreciate all of your patience with the last minute stand-in for the mayor.
We'll get you there.
Yeah, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.